The void between stars was not empty. It thrummed with radio echoes, the faint hum of ancient signals, and the quiet persistence of human ambition. The exploration vessel Arden Dawn cut through that silence, its hull gleaming faintly against the lightless abyss. Inside, Captain Mara Ellen leaned forward in her chair, her gaze fixed on the shifting telemetry streaming across the bridge screens. She was a woman forged from duty, her eyes sharp but tired, her posture betraying the strain of years spent keeping humanity's fragile colonies tethered together. The crew trusted her not because she was perfect, but because she was unyielding. Lieutenant Kieran Holt, the ship's science officer, muttered beneath his breath as unfamiliar energy signatures scrolled across his console. His mind always worked a step ahead, leaping from data to theory with little pause. He adjusted his glasses, an affectation more than a necessity, and whispered, "These patterns, they don't look natural. Someone is out there." The hum of the bridge quieted. Words like that carried weight. Humanity had expanded for generations, planting flags on rocks and building homes in hostile skies. Yet contact with advanced civilizations remained theoretical. Rumors of lost probes, unexplained signals, or vanishing outposts had drifted back to Earth, but never proof. Proof now shimmered on Holt's screen. Mara's voice was calm, though her pulse quickened. "Bring us closer. Control burn, minimal signature. I want eyes before we commit." The crew moved with silent precision, each one aware they might be on the edge of history or ruin. Ensign Vale, young and eager, adjusted navigation with careful hands, while Chief Engineer Rains monitored the reactors with the suspicion of a man who distrusted machines almost as much as he distrusted fate. They were a patchwork crew, some idealists, some pragmatists, but united by the quiet knowledge that humans did not belong among the stars yet dared to reach anyway. The ship slipped into the shadow of a barren moon. Beyond its curve, the unknown awaited. Sensors flickered, caught between clarity and static, until at last a shape emerged on the displays. Colossal, alien, unmistakably designed. It was not a ship built for beauty or exploration. It was a blade of black metal, pulsing with red seams of energy. Around it, smaller craft moved in eerie synchronization, like predators orbiting their master. A silence settled over the bridge, heavier than any spoken word. "They're watching us," Holt whispered. "Then let's not flinch," Mara replied. She tapped the comm, opened a channel. The message sent was simple, rooted in the optimism of Earth's charter. Greetings, peace, recognition of shared existence. They waited. Seconds stretched into minutes, each breath heavy with the knowledge that one reply could redefine humanity's fate. The answer came not in words but in a sound, a chorus of mechanical tones, layered and cold, that translated only after several strained moments. The alien voice was neither angry nor kind. It was indifferent, clinical, the sound of power used to obedience. "You are identified. You are fragile. You will submit." Mara felt the crew's eyes on her, their fear barely contained. She steadied herself. "Transmit reply. State clearly, humanity does not submit." The translation system echoed her defiance into the void. For an instant, the stars themselves seemed to pause. Then the alien formation shifted, vessels angling toward the ardent dawn with intent that could only be hostile. "Evasive pattern," Mara snapped. Engines roared, and the ship lurched into a desperate maneuver. Brilliant streaks of energy fire tore past them, illuminating the bridge in pulses of crimson. Vale's hands danced over controls, sweat streaming down his brow. The ardent dawn was not a warship, but was stubborn, its systems jury-rigged and hardened by necessity. The first barrage struck, shuttering the hull. Rains barked warnings from engineering. "Shields are bleeding. One more hit like that, and we're vented." Mara's jaw tightened. "Holt, options." His fingers flew, pulling from half-formed theories. "Their targeting relies on coordinated signals. If I can disrupt the pattern, just for seconds we can slip through." "Do it." He rerouted power, scrambling the signals with human improvisation, something no alien protocol accounted for. For one desperate moment, the synchronized predators faltered, their formation rippling with uncertainty. Vale seized a chance, plunging the ship into a dive across the moon's shadow. Enemy fire cascaded into empty space. The ardent dawn limped clear, hull scarred, alarm screaming, but alive. On the bridge, no one spoke for a long moment, the silence thick with disbelief and adrenaline. Humanity had been tested and had not broken. Finally, Holt exhaled. They underestimated us. Mara leaned back, her shoulders heavy with the weight of what they had just defied. They'll learn quickly, and they'll come harder next time. She turned to her comm officer. Send message to command. Tell them the truth. The officer's hands trembled as he keyed in the transmission. What exactly should I say, Captain? Mara's eyes burned with something fierce and unyielding. Tell them they are coming, and we will be ready. The ship sailed onward into black, battered but unbowed, its message racing ahead like a flare across the stars. Somewhere beyond, Earth would soon learn that history had shifted, that humanity was no longer a lonely voice in the cosmos, but a defiant spark in a universe vast and hostile. The crew of the Ardent Dawn sat in silence, each one aware of the burden they carried. Fear clung to them, but so did resolve. They were not the strongest, nor the oldest, nor the most advanced. Yet even against empires that saw them as fragile, humans would prove the one thing no enemy could erase. They endured, and in that endurance, a new war was already beginning. This version is 1,000 words, trimmed and precise, structured as a clear narrative, with characters, tension, and the central conflict introduced. Do you want to keep writing Section 2 in the same style and tone right away, or should we pause and refine Section 1 further before moving forward? The Ardent Dawn limped into orbit above Calder's reach, a fledgling colony world of steel domes and fragile greenhouses clinging to red earth. Docking clamps locked into place with a groan that echoed through the hull, and for the first time since the encounter, the crew exhaled as though surfacing from deep water. Yet relief was fleeting. The scars in the ship's plating and the fractured hum of her engine spoke louder than words. Humanity had been found, and the enemy had delivered its verdict. Captain Mara Ellen stood in the command chamber of the colony's council, a room carved hastily from rock, its walls sweating condensation. The faces around her were pale, gaunt with fear, but bright with stubborn resolve. Farmers, miners, engineers, none trained for war, yet now called to stand as guardians of their world. Mara spoke with deliberate clarity, her voice cutting through the rising tension. We are no longer alone. The empire that has revealed itself sees us as weak, a resource to be bent or broken. Calder's reach will be one of their first targets. If we yield, we vanish. If we resist, we may endure. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Counselor Juno, sharp-eyed and sharp-tongued, leaned forward. Resist with what? We have one wounded ship, and a militia barely armed with mining lasers. You ask us to stand against a fleet? Lieutenant Holt, standing at Mara's side, answered before she could. His tone carried no bravado, only conviction. They believe victory is inevitable. That belief is their weakness. If we can disrupt their certainty, show them that humans fight in ways they cannot predict, we buy time. Time is survival. Mara let his words hang. She knew Holt's mind was already 3 steps ahead, piecing together data into dangerous possibilities. Time was indeed survival, but it was also sacrifice, and she bore the burden of demanding it. The colony prepared. Engineers stripped atmospheric processors for parts, converting them into crude rail cannons. Children carried supplies to makeshift bunkers, their laughter echoing hollow in the tension. The Ardent Dawn, patched with whatever scrap could be welded to her hull, took her place in orbit as sentinel. Chief Rains cursed every modification, but worked with a grim devotion, hands black with grease and eyes lined with exhaustion. When the alien fleet arrived, the stars themselves seemed to shudder. Sleek vessels emerged from the void, their formations flawless, their intent absolute. No parley this time. Their message was written in the fire of engines and the hum of charged weapons. The first exchange was brutal. Calder's improvised cannon spat shards of metal into the void, guided more by desperation than precision. Alien counterfire rained down, tearing through the colony's defensive grid, setting domes aflame. Screams of the wounded carried across the comm, but still the defenders fought. Humanity had never been granted the luxury of fairness, and they would not beg for it now. On the bridge of the Ardent Dawn, Mara gripped the armrest of her chair as the ship shuddered with impact. "Target their coordination craft," she barked. Holt's analysis had revealed the enemy's reliance on centralized signals, their flawless unity masking a dangerous rigidity. If even one link in their chain could be broken, the rest would falter. Vale's hand shook, but did not fail as he maneuvered the battered ship into the heart of the storm. Rains cursed over the comm, threatening to shut down every system if pushed further, but Mara ignored him. The crew moved as one, driven by fear yet bound by loyalty, a small vessel daring to bite at the heels of giants. The moment came when Holt's jamming sequence struck true. A crack rippled through the alien formation as their coordination ship faltered, its signals dissolving into static. For the first time, the Predators hesitated. Calder's cannon struck harder, their crude fire finding gaps where none should exist. The battle shifted, if only for breaths. But victory was not without blood. A lance of crimson fire split through the colony's primary dome, reducing families and homes to ash in an instant. Vale gasped, his hands freezing on the controls. Mara forced her voice steady. "Eyes forward, ensign. We grieve later or not at all." The words were cruel, but necessary. Hesitation would kill them all. The ardent dawn dove once more, her hull screaming, as Holt pushed the jamming field to its limits. Another alien vessel shuddered and spun into silence, torn apart by its own allies' misaligned fire. The tide was shifting, though slowly and at terrible cost. Hours passed like years. When at last the enemy broke formation and withdrew, their ships flickering with uncertainty, Calder's Reach still stood. The colony lay scarred, its skies black with smoke and its ground littered with ruins. But it was not conquered. For humanity, that was enough. The council chamber was silent in the aftermath. Survivors clung to one another, their eyes hollow yet burning with new fire. Juno, who had doubted, now whispered hoarsely, "They can bleed." Mara stood tall despite the weight in her bones. "They will return, stronger. But now they know what we are. We are not prey. We are the storm they did not expect." Holt met her gaze, his expression unreadable, then spoke with quiet certainty. This was only the beginning. They will not forgive Defiance. They will bring fire until nothing remains. Mara turned toward the viewport, watching the distant stars flicker coldly. Her voice, low and unwavering, carried through the room. "Then let them come. We'll show them again and again that humanity endures." The colony began its slow work of burying the dead and rebuilding the living. The ardent dawn prepared for another impossible fight. Across the black gulf of space, the Empire would regroup and return. Yet here, on a fragile world that should have fallen, humanity had proven the truth of itself. Small, scarred, and unbroken. And in that truth lay the seed of something greater than survival. That's 1,000 words. Keeping a tight focus on characters, Mara, Holt, Vale, Rains, Juno, the escalating conflict, and humanity's defiance. Do you want Section 3 to escalate immediately into the final daring mission? Or should it first slow down briefly to show the psychological toll before the climax? The stars above Calder's Reach had not grown kinder. Weeks passed in uneasy silence. The colony's wounds only partially healed, while the ardent dawn remained tethered in orbit like a battered sentinel. Repairs were crude and imperfect. Entire sections of the ship hummed with makeshift grafts that would not survive a second sustained battle. Yet Captain Mara Ellen pressed her crew forward, refusing the luxury of despair. She knew silence did not mean safety. Silence meant the enemy was watching, waiting for the next strike. In the command chamber, the council had gathered again. The air was thick with the iron tang of recycled oxygen and unspoken dread. Holt stood beside Mara, his hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on a projection of intercepted signals. Alien transmissions shimmered across the display, patterns of absolute order and rigid timing. Holt's voice carried none of the wonder that had marked his earlier discoveries. Now it was taut, edged with urgency. Their structure is both strength and flaw. They cannot adapt quickly. Their empire thrives on control, on unbroken chains of command. If we sever the chain at its heart, their unity collapses. Counselor Juno leaned forward, her face pale in the glow. "You mean an assault on their command nexus? That would be suicide. We barely survived their probing fleet. A strike against their core would be madness. Mara's reply came without hesitation. Madness is all that remains. If we stand and wait, they will return in force. Calders reach Earth, every colony, burned to ash. We must hit them first, not with strength but with audacity. The council fractured into debate, voices rising in fear and anger. Yet the seed was planted. Humanity had no reserves, no vast armadas. What they had was a willingness to gamble everything on impossible odds. Mara watched the council splinter and knew already the decision had been made. If no one else would choose the path, she would. The days that followed were a blur of preparation. Holt worked tirelessly to refine a plan, mapping alien communication pathways, identifying a central relay hidden within a massive warship rumored to coordinate entire sectors. Vale, still shaken by the deaths on Calder, drilled navigation maneuvers until his hands bled against the controls. Rains cursed every risk, yet his gruff hands brought the Ardent Dawn back to a semblance of readiness, her patched hull bristling with scavenged weaponry. Even Juno, who had once spoken only retreat, now walked among the colonists, urging them to prepare as though the gamble were already theirs. When the day arrived, the crew stood together on the bridge, faces illuminated by the pale glow of consoles. Mara surveyed them one by one. They were weary, scarred, yet unbroken. She felt a surge of pride that burned hotter than fear. We make our stand not because it is winnable, but because it is necessary. If we fall, others will rise behind us. But if we succeed, even for a moment, we show them the truth of humanity. The Ardent Dawn leapt from orbit, engines flaring against the abyss. Space folded around them as they pushed beyond known coordinates into the Empire's heart. Hours passed in tense silence, each moment carrying them deeper into danger, until at last the alien relay came into view, a titanic vessel, its surface webbed with crimson light, surrounded by an honor guard of sleek warships. It pulsed like a heart, binding fleets across light years with every beat. The crew inhaled as one. There was no illusion of survival. This was defiance distilled to its essence. "Vale, bring us in low," Mara ordered, her voice calm. "Hope, begin the disruption sequence." The ship descended into the shadow of the behemoth, its defenses awakening with a storm of fire. Shields cracked under the assault, alarms blared, but still they pressed on. Holt's console blazed with symbols as he unleashed the jamming algorithms, weaving chaos into the alien order. Signals fractured, fleets stuttered across distant systems, and the relays shuddered with confusion. The alien escort swarmed, their movements still terrifyingly precise. Rain shouted warnings as the reactor groaned under impossible strain. "She can't hold, Mara. One more volley and we're dust." "Then let's make it count," Mara snapped. "All power to forward batteries. Vale, hold this course." The Ardent Dawn, a scarred and stubborn fragment of humanity, hurled itself directly at the colossal vessel. Improvised weapons spat fury, tearing it seems never meant to be struck. Alien counterfire ripped across their hull, but Vale's steady hands and Holt's pulsing interference carried them through the storm. The ship screamed, yet endured. At the final moment, Mara gave the order, "Fire everything." The rail cannons discharged with sound like thunder in the void. Crude missiles, guided by little more than courage, slammed into the relay's exposed joints. Energy cascaded in blinding arcs, ripping through circuits too vast to fail yet failing all the same. The alien nexus convulsed, its red veins flickering, then collapsing into silence. The fleet surrounding it faltered. Precision dissolved into confusion, ships veering off course, weapons firing wild. Across distant systems, the Empire's iron grip loosened, its unity undone in a single shattering instant. The Ardent Dawn spun out of the explosion, hull aflame, life support failing. Smoke choked the bridge, consoles sparking with dying light. Rains was gone, lost the blast that had torn engineering apart. Vale slumped unconscious at his post, hands still clamped to the controls. Holt sat trembling, face pale but eyes bright with triumph. Mara stood, blood seeping from a wound she did not have time to feel, her gaze fixed on the burning carcass of the relay, a titan slain by a vessel too small to matter. "We've done it," she whispered, her voice both fierce and mournful. We've shown them what it means to be human. The silence that followed was heavy, yet not hopeless. Messages would already be spreading, carried on fractured alien channels and human whispers alike. The story of defiance, of the people who refused submission, would race ahead of them. As the ship drifted, battered but alive, Mara placed a hand on Holt's shoulder. Send word to Calder. Tell them the Empire bleeds. Tell them we endure. Stars glimmer beyond the viewport, cold and eternal, but no longer indifferent. Humanity had carved its name into the dark, not with dominance, but with defiance. And though the war was far from over, the universe would never again mistake them for fragile. That's 1,000 words, concluding the arc with a daring strike, sacrifice, and a satisfying yet open-ended resolution. Would you like me to now stitch all 3 sections into a single flowing 3,000-word story, so you have one polished draft? The ardent dawn drifted in silence, a scarred relic in the aftermath of impossible victory. Her hull bore the memory of every strike endured, her corridors echoing with the ghosts of those who had not lived to see the stars quiet again. Yet even in her ruin, the ship endured, much like her crew. Captain Mara Ellen stood at the viewport of the fractured bridge, one arm bound in a sling, her eyes tracing the fading embers of the alien relay's destruction. The explosion had shattered the Empire's flawless chain, but Mara knew fractures were not collapse. The enemy would recover. The question was whether humanity could do the same. Lieutenant Holt moved with a limp as he approached her, a data pad in his hand. His face was pale, dark rings carved beneath his eyes, but the spark of restless thought had not dimmed. The disruption is spreading faster than expected, he reported, his voice low but laced with restrained urgency. Entire sectors are blind. Their fleets can't coordinate without the relay signal. We bought time, maybe more. Mara turned from the viewport, her gaze searching his. Time is survival, but time alone isn't enough. We've shown them we can wound them. That means they'll come back harder, not weaker. Holt hesitated, then added, unless others rise while they're vulnerable. If alien species under their heels see what we've done, they might fight. Humanity may not stand alone. The thought lingered in the air between them, fragile yet potent. For the first time, the war was not only humanity's burden. It could become something greater, a rebellion against an empire long thought unshakable. Below, Calder's reach stirred with new life. Survivors rebuilt amidst ruins, their grief tempered with resolve. Counselor Juno stood among them, sleeves rolled to her elbows, working beside miners and children alike. The woman who once demanded retreat now inspired others with defiance, her voice ringing to the battered colony. We endure because we choose to endure. We fight because no one else will. In the quiet of the bridge, Mara received the transmission. The calm crackle before the image resolved into the face of Admiral Kether, a senior figure from Earth's defense fleet. His hair was silver, his eyes carved with years of cautious diplomacy, but tonight they burned with something fiercer. Your actions have changed everything, Captain. Reports of your strike have reached Earth and beyond. Colonies once ready to surrender now speak of resistance. You've given us more than time. You've given us proof. Mara bowed her head slightly, but her voice held steady. Proof comes at a cost, Admiral. My crew is broken. Rains is gone. Vale may never fly again. We cannot fight another battle like this. Kether's expression softened, but his reply was firm. No one asks you to fight alone again. But know this. The Empire has bled, and because of you, the galaxy knows it can bleed. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in weighted silence. Holt exhaled, sinking into a chair with the weariness of a man who had carried too much for too long. It won't be enough, Mara. They'll still come, and in numbers we can't fathom. She allowed herself a faint, weary smile. Then we'll give them something they can't fathom either. Later that night, as the ship drifted quietly over Calder's reach, Mara walked the dim corridors, pausing the names hastily etched into a bulkhead. The dead, honored in the simplest way the living could manage. Her fingers brushed the carved letters, her heart heavy but steady. Every name was a reminder that this war was not abstract, not about empires or strategy, but about people, fragile, stubborn, irreplaceable. She returned to the bridge as dawn broke over Calder's scarred horizon. The light touched the domes and ruins alike, painting them gold. Vale stirred weakly at his station, eyes open for the first time since the battle, and whisper hoarsely, "Did we win?" Mara knelt beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "We lived. That's victory enough." Hope, watching, spoke more firmly. "No, we didn't just live. We changed the shape of the war. They thought us fragile. They thought us prey. Now they know we are neither." Mara stood again, looking once more to the stars. The scars of battle still burned there, but beneath them, infinite possibilities stretched out, vast and uncharted. The Empire would come again in greater force, but humanity had found something stronger than weapons or strategy. They had found a will to endure, and the knowledge that they were not alone in defiance. The ardent dawn, broken yet unbowed, turned her prow away from Calder's reach. Her engines roared back to life, patched and trembling, but still burning. Mara spoke softly, the words carrying across the bridge like a vow. "We will meet them again, and when we do, they'll remember this. Humanity does not submit. Humanity endures." The ship surged forward, leaving the wounded world behind, carry with it not just a crew, but message written in sacrifice and fire. Across the black expanse, whispers would spread, and with them, hope. The war was far from over. In truth, it had only just begun. That's 1,000 words for Section 4, giving closure to the immediate arc while opening the door for the larger war and future story. Would you like me to expand this into a longer Part 2 outline, continuing beyond Section 4, so the narrative can grow into a multi-book style saga?